Salut, c'est Géraldine, bienvenue sur Comme une Française TV, sound French even to the French. There's a very old tradition that will still follow in our everyday lives, trading stories. It helps us laugh with old friends, bond with lovers, or connect with strangers. They're a starting point of a deeper relationship with anyone, and today I will show you how to tell your stories in French. I'm going to show you the exact words and sentences you can use to keep your story flowing from beginning to end. If a story has a clear structure, your audience will easily understand, even if your grammar and vocabulary aren't perfect. With the following scripts and exact words to say, you will soon captivate French people. Let's dive in. Raconter une histoire. Raconter une histoire is to tell a story, and it's a central part of human bond. Now, there are many reasons to tell stories. Some are good reasons, some are bad reasons, and many different kinds of story to tell as well. So before we dive into the specific scripts, you might need to know which kind of story you want to tell and why you're telling it. Is it un souvenir, a memory? Is it une histoire vraie, a true story, or une histoire inventée, a made-up story? We also say une fiction, a fiction. Is it un récit de voyage, a travel story maybe? It might be une aventure, an adventure, or at least une mésaventure, a misadventure. My favorite stories are often une coïncidence, a coincidence that happened to someone. By the way, in French, story is the same word as history, the study of things past. For this one, we sometimes use une majuscule. We write l'histoire, history. Also, French people don't have a clear translation for the English word storytelling, as in when business and brands use their power of stories for their marketing. Your story can be intéressant or intéressante, interesting or hopefully captivant or captivante, captivating, or even passionnante, ravishing or exciting. Beware though, excitant in French means stimulating or arousing. Don't make the mistake unless you're talking about a very specific kind of story. You might also hear a story to make you laugh. Une histoire drôle, it's a funny story, but it's also a synonym for une blague, a joke. For longer stories, it's more usual to talk about une histoire amusante, an amusing story, or marrante, that's a colloquial expression for funny. An unusual but useful adjective you can try is cocasse, comical. Don't use hystérique though. It only means hysterical in the medical mental illness kind of way. Finally, historique is actually sometimes else altogether. It means historical or ancient. Now let's see how you actually tell your story. Démarrer une histoire, or commencer une histoire means to start a story. The most famous opening is Il était une fois, once upon a time. But it's old-fashioned by now. Instead, try to tie your start in with the current conversation you're having. It will feel more natural, and it's probably the reason why you want to tell the story in the first place. For example, you can use Ça me rappelle la fois où. This reminds me of that time when. And then you can go on with the story. Or c'est comme quand j'étais. Or c'est comme quand j'étais. It's just like when I was. Or a little bit more directly. Tiens, d'ailleurs, l'autre jour, je. Oh, by the way, the other day, I, etc. The last one has the advantage of using tiens, hold on, tiens, which is used like by the way or oh, that reminds me of. The use of a verb at the imperative catches the attention of your audience. You can even be clearer and more directly involve the listener. Je t'ai déjà raconté, etc. Did I ever tell you that, etc. Or tu te rappelles la fois où? Tu te rappelles la fois où? Do you remember when? These ones also call for a short hook within the heart of your story. So now in one sentence you've introduced your story, you've made clear what you want to talk about, and you have caught your audience's attention. That's a great start. Now you have the space to tell your story, and if you want to be listened to, you will need to keep the try and tested structure, le début, le milieu et la fin. Le début, le milieu et la fin. The beginning, the middle, and the end. In the beginning, all you need to do is to quickly set up the place, the time, and the characters, and what they're doing. You've already done a part of it in your introductions. Tiens, d'ailleurs, l'autre jour, j'étais au salon de l'agriculture avec Julie, on caressait les vaches quand? Tiens, d'ailleurs, l'autre jour, j'étais au salon de l'agriculture avec Julie, on caressait les vaches quand, etc. Or, by the way, the other day I was at the agriculture show in Paris with Julie. We were petting some cows when, etc. Now your audience has a clear picture of the situation where you were, when, and who you were with at the time. Or, tu te rappelles la fois où on a sauvé un chat? C'était quand on était en Angleterre. On faisait le tour d'un village et etc. Tu te rappelles la fois où on a sauvé un chat? C'était quand on était en Angleterre. On faisait le tour d'un village et etc. Do you remember that time when we saved a cat? It was back when we were living in England. We were walking around a small town and etc. Again, it only took a short sentence and your story already has a clear setup. That will help with the following bits, which are les rebondissements. Les rebondissements. These are the twists. They're sometimes called les péripéties. Les péripéties, the adventures that happen within a story. They're the heart and the soul of the story. When the tension is building, events are happening, and the initial situation is upset in some way. These twists are introduced by subtle but essential words, such as et là or et alors, that means and then, or et c'est là que, and that's when, or et en fait, but actually. If you want to emphasize a quick twist, you can try tout à coup, which means suddenly or all of a sudden. There's also a synonym closer to the English word, soudain, but in actual spoken French, it's unusual and it doesn't sound right. The same goes for soudainement. If you want to dramatically build up the suspense, you can also use the longer mais c'est à ce moment-là que. Mais c'est à ce moment-là que. But it was at this moment that, etc. So let's take an example. On caressait les vaches quand tout à coup l'une d'entre elles s'énerve et nous attaque à travers la grille. On caressait les vaches quand tout à coup l'une d'elles s'énerve et nous attaque à travers la grille. We were petting some cows when all of a sudden one of them gets angry and attacks us through the fence. On faisait le tour du village et c'est là qu'on entend des petits miaulements sans savoir d'où ils viennent. On faisait le tour du village et c'est là qu'on entend des petits miaulements sans savoir d'où ils viennent. We were walking around a small town and that's when we heard little mews, without knowing from where they came from. Then you build up your tension, release it in small victories, and ideally you get to frame it in a neat structure like Star Wars. But you work with what you have anyway, so until you reach the end. Réussir la fin. Landing your ending is important. If you're not telling an anti-story or some kind of postmodern take on the absurdity of modern life, you want to tie up your story with a satisfying end, and hopefully a happy one. That's better. For some funny stories, the ending is a punchline that needs to be surprising. Then you just treat it like another twist. But for any other stories longer than 2 or 3 sentences, you want to make clear when you're reaching the end, so your audience won't be left surprised and expecting for more. The most usual markers for these are finalement, finalement. You can take a look back at what happened with en fin de compte as well, en fin de compte, in the end, or you can just skip straight to the consequences and sum up your story with bref. It means long story short. For example, finalement, on a dû amputer la main de Julie et elle sort de l'hôpital demain. Finalement, on a dû amputer la main de Julie et elle sort de l'hôpital demain. Sorry, Julie. Finally, we had to amputate Julie's hand and she's leaving the hospital tomorrow. Or, bref, on a brûlé un village, mais on a sauvé un chat. Bref, on a brûlé un village, mais on a sauvé un chat. Long story short, we burned down the village to the ground, but we saved the cat. If you forgot to introduce your ending, you might end up being awkwardly quiet waiting for your audience to realize it's the end. So that's unpleasant. Avoid this situation with the last voilà, voilà. It's a very useful multi-purpose word that can mean that's it, exactly, or the end. Is it really the end though? Après la fin de l'histoire, after the end of your story, I find it useful to spell out the point of it. It might be a lesson you learned from it, or the reason you're telling the story at the point of the conversation, or a question it raised in you. Or as we used to call it, la morale. La morale. We also say la moralité sometimes. La morale de l'histoire. La morale de l'histoire. The moral of the story. I think it's good manners. It's another way to keep your audience a part of the conversation. Without it, at worst, you might appear as someone who's just telling a story to hear yourself talking, and you don't want that. You can introduce la moralité de l'histoire, or la morale with bref, depuis je, long story short, since then, I, etc. Or du coup, depuis je, and that's why, since then, I, etc. Or et c'est pour ça que, and that's the reason why. Or maybe, tout ça pour dire, all this to say. Or more explicitly, et maintenant j'ai compris pourquoi. And now I get why. Or even one last example, moralité ne jamais. Moral of the story, don't ever, etc. So for example, moralité, ne touchez jamais les taureaux avec un uniforme de la Croix-Rouge. Moralité, ne touchez jamais les taureaux avec un uniforme de la Croix-Rouge. Moral of the story, don't ever touch a bull when you're wearing a Red Cross uniform. Or, et c'est pour ça que je ne peux plus aller au Royaume-Uni. And that's why I can't go to the UK anymore. Et toi? When did your last coincidence happen? Did you travel recently? Your turn. Tell us a story. Tell me in the comment section. I want to hear from you, in French if you can. If you're in YouTube, you will find the link below this video to the blog commeunefrancaise.com. On the site, I read all the comments and answer all your questions too. Did you like this video? Do you want more? Let me share exclusive lessons, private offers, and my 10 favorite Comme une Française handpicked episodes with you by email. It's super easy to join. Leave me your first name and email and I will get back to you straight away. Subscribe now to get my best content straight to your inbox, the fantastic stuff that's not even on YouTube. And the best thing is, it's all free. Merci for watching Comme une Française TV. Sound French even to the French. Allez, salut!